Any Australians present? Can I apologise profusely?
But
the rest of you are missing a brilliant game of test cricket. 116 for 6, that's what I told you. I apologise profusely, we're going to do something. So you've given up that glorious possibility, but maybe some of you checking on your phones anyway. You know, it's funny. We are now 9 weeks and 2 days after the devastation, the annihilation. Let's be honest, we lost 2/3 of our votes and 85% of our seats. And I absolutely stand by what Norman has said about Paul, who's an outstanding member of Parliament, who's a loss to the folks of Sutton and Sheen and a loss to us nationally. What I can tell you is this: we are as annihilated today as we were 9 weeks and 2 days ago. Time moves on, and the way in which we speak about things sometimes moves on. When I was first elected to Westland 10 and a bit years ago, I remember my eldest daughter, who was in her teens, doing what teenagers in our village tend to do, rite of passage, worked in the local spa on a Saturday. And she came back from work on the Saturday evening, and she came back uncharacteristically buzzing, and said, everybody's so excited, everybody's talking about it. And she was utterly thrilled, and I was touched. I went down to Parliament my first week, came back. The next Saturday, she comes back from her time at Spa, and I said, is everybody still talking about it? She said, no. That was last week. Get over yourself. And the point is, I have no less ended 95 years of Tory rule on the second Saturday than I had on the first Saturday. But people have changed the conversation, at least a bit. And here's our massive challenge. I don't want to bring you down, but there is a danger in these last 9 and a bit weeks. We've done an awful lot of talking about ourselves to ourselves, and not understanding that we are, as I said, no less annihilated today than we were 9 and a bit weeks ago. Now, leaders are to be traders in optimism. I want to be a trader in optimism, but you can only be optimistic in a realistic sense if you understand where you are starting from. And I look at this. Our challenge this last 5 years has been one of knocking on doors and campaigning, and you've done it so well across this book. So well. But you've been doing it against the backdrop of being very much talked about, often derided, often criticised. It's been a tough last 5 years. I hate to break it to you, you will look back fondly upon that. Because as Oscar Wilde said, there's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that is not being talked about. So our job now is not to look inwards at one another, it's to look outwards as to how we grab a space in the national limelight that gets us attention. Now, I don't know, probably for my many sins, was asked by Nick to play Nigel Farron in the warm-up to the Nick v Nigel debate, and I had to occupy that man's head for a month, and it's not a very nice place to be. But I can tell you this, there are some things we can learn from that man. The idea that you can, with great audacity, put yourself on the national stage without any right to be there, and tell people a story about who you are. Now, who Nigel Farage is, who UKIP are, it's not a very nice thing at all, but people know who they are. And the great problem for us is that people do not know who we are. And we have to get out there and resonate and say things in a way which is spiky, with a language that actually cuts through, and know that when you've got 8 MPs and 7.9% of the vote, nuance is absolutely out of the window. There is no call for it whatsoever if we want to survive. And there are many people here, we've already talked about this, who are members sometime, should we say, longer than 9 weeks, possibly even 50, 60 years and counting. And you will know that this is not our first near-death experience, and we should be buoyed by this. But we also must be suckered into thinking that that means just because we survived under Grimond, under Steele and under Ashdown, that we have some kind of God-given right to recover. You see, those guys had an advantage we don't have. They have the common acceptance that we were the third party. We've got to even scrap to get that back. And that means picking issues that tell people a story of who we are, and not just talking about what we're against. So we are the kind of people who are internationalist, anti-nationalist, outward-looking, generous-spirited. Therefore, we lead the fight to keep Britain at the heart of the European Union. We are the kind of people who are on the side of the powerless, irrespective of whether it costs us votes. Therefore, we speak with unnuanced compassion for the refugees at Calais and elsewhere. We are the kind of people who know and believe that nothing robs you of your liberty and your freedom more than poor housing and poverty. Therefore, we stand up against David Cameron's selling off of affordable housing. These things matter to us, and they tell a story out there about who we are, and Britain needs to know who we are. And that is my mission. My mission is not, you'll be perhaps disappointed to hear, to get us by 2020 to 40% of the vote and 300 members of Parliament. That is not my aim. My aim is to get us out of the single figures, into double figures, in and through the teens and into the 20s, and give you the platform here in Sutton and in Carshalton to win 2 seats in the next general election, and to make sure you deliver Assembly members and a member of the European Parliament, and to continue your stranglehold in the most positive possible sense of the word of Sutton Council. That means you having the platform upon which to build. That means having a simple message that people get, that people will hear and be excited by. I was a young person once, and when I joined the party, I joined in my mid-teens because something got me here. I watched a rerun of Patty Come Home and it broke my little heart, and I thought, I'm not having that, I'm going to do something about it. And my sense is that is how most people move from one place to another. There are new members here who joined because Nick Clegg moved them on the morning of the 8th of May, and they were proud and they were passionate about what liberalism has meant and what it must be. Us talking dryly to people about issues that they're broadly positive about will not connect. Our job is to reach into people's very souls and bring them to an understanding that we are the party they must stand behind and stand for and vote for. When I came here and spoke 18 months ago to the 2 constituencies, I am almost certain I would have said words to the effect of, you can't change people's lives if you don't win. You must win. Everything must be focused on trying to win. There is no such thing, I would have said, as a noble defeat. Do you know what? On the 7th of May, we had a noble defeat. And we've got to use the energy that gives us to rebuild that movement. And our job is indeed to follow the example of Charles Kennedy. The ability to be human and to connect and to land a message, because if the messenger is trusted, the message gets through. To be utterly principled and to be hugely effective. Those 3 things were connected. We have just suffered a massive defeat across the country because the bad guys have the best tools and the best messages, the most effective way of campaigning. Charles reminds us that the good guys can win, and I am determined that once again, the good guys are going to win.